to know?
My name is Kevin Jackson. I'm a representative from Community Counsel, and you are the Detroit Department of Economic Growth and Development. I'm here asking you for $25,000 to help empower your community. Americans are being priced out of legal services. 35% of Americans are making $25,000 or less. The United States government classifies a family making $25,000 or less at or below the poverty line. What this means is high retainer fees, hourly lawyer fees are $200 to $300 an hour, puts these families in situations where they need to decide, am I going to pay my rent or am I going to defend my rights? Additionally, the demand for legal services is high while the supply is very low. For private and public lawyers are faced with complications of providing these legal services to individuals, creating long waits and high turnaways, making individuals want to defend themselves in court, represent themselves as if they were a legal expert, leading to inefficient outcomes and inequitable justice. So, how can we bridge a better connection between the legal community and those who need to be served best? How can we bridge this pricing gap? And how can we empower people to defend their rights? Community Counsel. Community Counsel will be linking communities with their lawyers. Community Counsel is an initiative where we'll use our strong and strategic network of law firms, legal aid organizations, and clinics, and partner them with community organizations and less fortunate individuals, with the goal of bridging that pricing gap, but also bringing the communities together so they can feel empowered and connected. All so they can empower and defend their rights. I'm going to tell you 3 reasons why the $25,000 will help empower your community and be sustainable. The first reason is through our strategic legal connection network. Second is how we're going to strategically bridge that gap. And third will be how Community Counsel has its forecasted success. So strategic connections. Community Counsel will use its strategic network of lawyers, law firms, and aid organizations and pair them with specific and strategic communities which will best benefit. For example, a law firm that specializes in housing will be paired with like a resident housing association who frequently has landlord-tenant issues with all its members. Bringing an efficient outcome for people in a community, having that everlasting effect, the ripple effect with word of mouth, letting people know how they were empowered through the community interactions, through Community Counsel's partnership, and continuing on. Additionally, Community Counsel is going to empower relationships through its partnership with the ABA. That's the American Bar Association. Through this partnership, Community Counsel and the ABA are going to set maintenance requirements for the law firms to maintenance their relationship with the organizations and the less fortunate individuals, to have a continued rapport every quarter. And then additionally with the ABA, we're going to set annual review standards, where we're going to make a publication of the best performers within the Community Counsel strategic partnership. So the top rankers in employment matters will be ranked based on the outcomes of the individual services they provided pro bono or discounted to our community members. And then lastly, through our strategic connections, Community Counsel will be putting on workshops and help sessions. Now these workshops and help sessions will be happening at the macro and the micro level. At the macro level, it will be for a broader audience, just like the communities, the broader communities and the city bases and the counties, and will provide free services at a volume, really expanding the brand of Community Counsel and the strategic networks and communities that we want to have. But also we'll have it at the micro level for the individual partnerships to have strategic help sessions and work sessions for their strategically partnered organizations. So now that you know how Community Counsel is going to strategically link the communities, let me tell you a little bit about how Community Counsel is going to bridge that pricing gap. Community Counsel is going to bridge the pricing gap through providing access and discounted legal services through the pair partnership. These discounted legal services we worked on because Community Counsel has worked with the individual firms and aid organizations to make the average discounted fee about $400 for core key services. Additionally, Community Counsel will have a voucher program, working with state and federal government to give vouchers to mitigate the discount and the gap between the people who are priced out of those legal services. Because typically, a person making around $25,000 a year for traditional legal services will have to pay from 5 to 10% of their annual income to get resolved in these matters. Also, community counsel will be bridging the gap by helping law firms bring down their client attrition rate. Clients spend about $50 to $150 to get new clients. With community counsel, we'll be using our strategic network of our community partners to bring them to there. So there's a value proposition in law firms and legal organizations wanting to partner with us on both ends. And then community counsel will also use this database form to connect communities. This database will have forms and information to connect communities together. These forms will be simple things like wills, where you can go on as a simple patron, download a will, and fill out the simple requirements to empower yourself. The will doesn't have to be published with or checked with a lawyer, but we can have also a review process, but you can also put it with a bank or get it notarized. Easy and empowering at a discounted rate. So now that you know how community counsels will be strategically connected communities, how we aim to bridge that pricing gap, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the drivers to our forecasted success. Community counsel will be charging about $300 per organization to charge up for their membership. Community counsel will be getting about 5% in transactions between the organizations. So any transaction that's happening with our strategic partnerships between our members and the legal organizations, community counsel will get a return. That's going to help community counsel be sustainable and help us pay off that $25,000 that we'll be getting from you. Additionally, community counsel will be making money off the forms, about $25 per form, which is highly discounted because typically to get a will written up or some other type of simple services like that from a lawyer, you're going to be paying anywhere from $300 to $600 just for one simple document. So now you know about community counsel's connection. Now you know about how to strategically price and bridge that gap. And a little bit about the drivers of the forecast. Let me tell you when we're going to pay back that $25,000. Community counsel will be paying back that $25,000 in 15 months. Now that's based on our predicted success of signing up 250 organizations in our first year, having 12 to 1,300 interactions in that first year, and the average person who's going to be using community counsel is going to use it 1 to 2 times a year. Now with our forecast, we predict a 5 to 10% growth rate in our revenues and our revenue inputs, which is going to help us have that predicted success, and we'll have a great generation of revenue from day one onward. So community counsel will be sustainable, will empower people in your community, will bridge the pricing gap, and will connect legal communities with the communities who best need to be served by the legal communities. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Have you thought about what communities you're going to start with implementing this?
Yeah, well, I'm interested in the Detroit economic growth, and so we're thinking of the Detroit community. There's a lot of discrepancies. There's a lot of legal organizations in the community and around the community, and there's a lot of people who have that, who are bridged out of the gap. And so I think it's the best community. It's a community I'm familiar with too as a leader, and so that'll be the best strategic advantage for us. Yes.
What will be the agenda of the workshops and help sessions that you will be holding?
So the agenda will be twofold. It'll be a strategic agenda for the individual groups that we're having. So, like I said, if you're a resident housing association, we're going to partner you up with a law firm that specializes in housing. However, if you're part of a union or some things like that, we're going to aid you with someone who's doing employment law. Or for people in senior citizen homes who may not have a will already written, we're going to partner those senior citizen homes with people who are highly qualified in estate planning and matters like that. Yes.
So there's online services that do kind of like cheap basic lawyer work like this, like LegalZoom. You know, you can get a will drawn up for $100. You know, how are you guys going to differentiate yourselves and compete in that market?
So LegalZoom and those similar websites that we're competing with in a small way only provide the documents and services. They're not providing the network and the interaction between the individuals. And that's what we're selling, because that continued interaction and rapport lends credibility and acts as a resource for people within the community. Now I know if someone was helped by community counsel, I'll feel more comfortable going to them, giving them my services, giving them a little bit more private information that I'm really beholden to, and it's really an interaction in the community. When you use LegalZoom and those other websites, you don't know who you're interacting with, and it's not very personalized. So having that trust and that community aspect of it is really where we have the competitive advantage.
You said that federal and state governments will be sponsoring the coupons. The coupons will be passing on to the communities, right?
Yeah, we'll be working with state and federal government to get a voucher system for certain people who classify or qualify within certain income levels or certain group levels, yes. Yes.
So I could see a lot of like legal firms initially agreeing to this, especially as like a backdrop to like when they're less busy and stuff like that. I guess like how, do you have a plan in place in terms of like making sure they maybe commit on paper but then don't really follow through because they just want to work on their, kind of private accounts?
Yeah, so that's great. Our strategic interaction and connection with the ABA is who the governing body of most of all law and people who are licensed. Through that connection, people will be more beholden to interacting with community counsel. It'll add some legitimacy and some credibility within it as well. And so that's why we're using that strategic connection with the ABA, because then we'll have some legitimacy and it'll be a thing. Frequently, law organizations have pro bono work, and that's usually free or discounted work, but it's at their own discretion. And to make it more formalized and have it as a volume services is pretty good. Also, law firms are going to like to use community counsel for their new associates coming in. It's a good training mechanism, getting them in on the ground floor, really seeing what their skills are in core competent areas. Yes?
Is this projected break even at an aggregate level, looking at the entire community within Detroit, or is this for what firms at an individual level can expect?
So this is our growth for the whole area that we're targeting, the Detroit area, which we're asking a grant for. And so that's how we're projected, based on our growth after our first year and our attrition after that.
So, is there any inbuilt feedback mechanism to ensure that the law firms which you are collaborating with are doing their job reasonably well?
Yeah. So community counsel, through our partnership with the ABA, like I said, we're going to have maintenance requirements. So there's a review, there's a maintenance, and we'll be tracking the progress. And that's how we'll help make our reports at the end of the year to say who the best performers are and things of that aspect. So there's a continued process of making sure that people are getting quality services and reviews. And so we'll be checking up and we'll be maintaining and managing the relationships that they'll have as well.
There were times where you started speaking really, really fast, and toward the end of the first pillar was the first time you did it. But when you do that, your motions also become a lot faster, and it kind of visually it looks like you're trying to distract yourself from what you're saying, because there's just you're doing general hand motions, but then when you do it, you start to kind of do this, and your head starts to like bob a lot faster. And it looks like you're ready to just like go play basketball or something. So I don't know if you slow down or something, but just kind of keep it in mind that when you speed up talking, everything you're doing is speeding up as well.
You got tied up during Q&A, but the good thing is you realized it and you quickly started scanning everybody. About the Q&A, you didn't listen to one question completely. I think it was your question, right? So. That is something even I struggle with. I've become too, even I want to answer the question quickly, and I think that's where you missed it. So, that's something.
So I thought that maybe your pace was a little bit off. Like, maybe this was a little too rehearsed, but it was like, sometimes the pauses were a little too long. I think it's sort of what Josh was saying. But it ended up sounding a little more maybe robotic than like if you were to just speak.
Big difference between your improv speech and this one. And just in terms of talking with us.
Yeah.
Just normally. And it was very much rushed to me. And so sometimes the pauses were there, but then sometimes all of the ideas run together. And look at what you're doing. Can you feel what you're doing with your legs? Okay, I want you to see if you can now become conscious of that, because that's the way you started out too. That's one of your tells that we're not as comfortable as we like to be, are those jittery legs. They're bouncing. The other one, look what we're doing. Okay, look at your hands.
Well, this is just okay, I understand.
No, but they're going like this. You can hold them, but let's go like this. Take some water up there. And no, instead of going like that, it's perfectly fine, and it might slow you down. But it's perfectly fine and far better than, licking your lips or whatever. It's just fine. It's no problem. Yeah, go.
So I guess this graph is a little bit busy and like there's a lot going on there, so it might be something better for like the appendix and like maybe you just wanna focus in on one thing. That was just my one little tip on that.
Yeah, all I think you'd have to do is probably tell us break even is in 15 months. I'm not sure we need all that to convey that pretty simple point.
So I think that probably, how fast you went has already been covered. But I think you have a pretty good physical presence. You're a pretty imposing person as far as how tall you are. Maybe use the room a little bit more. But you speak with a lot of intention in your words. Your words sound like, you mean to say them. Even though they were really fast, there was no hesitation or question in your words. And there was actually a really, really nice transition between pillar 1 and pillar 2. You kind of reflected. So I've told you a little bit about this. Now I want to walk you through bridging the gap between this and this. So I really think that was nice.
So you're like probably the last person I would associate with nervousness, you're always very confident and natural speaker, and there was this one moment when you said legal counsel and you smiled. And I think I wish that would have been more often throughout the presentation. You were very happy, when you said that. And also the fact that I think you could have utilized the slides of, there was the same picture which was being used on multiple slides with the legal counsel logo being repeated, and you could have maybe used something else. Other than that, was it also because you were talking about something you are very passionate about? So maybe there was a performance pressure. That was the reason behind the nervousness. Because Kevin and nervous, these things don't sound the same. They just don't go together.
So you clearly knew what you were talking about. The only time we even half glanced at the screen was to, I think, make sure your clicker was right on at the beginning. But otherwise, you just knew exactly when to click. You know exactly what you were talking about. That was really good. One thing to keep in mind, since you are so tall, the bottom third of the screen is blocked out by you for me personally. So I don't know, just something to think about in the future. If you're going to stand in front of it, make sure that you're either far enough back where everyone can. Just something to think about.
You guys sit on the side, Josh.
Yeah,
Or on the
audience
micro.
member.
If
Come on.
his CEO is going to sit in the middle.
Strategy.
Really
Oh,
nice.
yeah, CEO.